The afterlife. We don't really know a lot about it, but I feel like a lot of us want to know more. Like, what comes after this? How we process death and grief and all of those things. And so recently I read a book. It's called Goodbye Hello by Adam Berry, Processing Grief and Understanding Death Through the Paranormal. The way it's written, it flows really well. It holds your attention. It's very interesting. It's fascinating. You get to hear about Adam's experience. And so who is Adam Berry? If you're not familiar with who he is the co-host on the show Kindred Spirits. He's a paranormal researcher, investigator, educator, TV personality, and now author. What kind of hooked him into having a job and working in the paranormal is in 2006, he was on this ghost tour in Gettysburg. As you may or may not know, Gettysburg is a very, very haunted location because of the Battle of Gettysburg that happened there. He's on the tour and he hadn't really experienced too much going on, and he goes to the guy who's hosting the tour. He's like, hey, I want to go to this one area that he had heard that was like super haunted, had a lot of activity and whatnot, and the host or the guide is like, I would not go over there alone. And Adam's like, all right, and I'm gonna go over there. So he goes there, and when he gets to that area, he sees these weird anomalies in the forest, in the trees, moving back and forth. It's all kind of creepy and weird. And then all of a sudden he starts hearing like screaming and yelling and the sounds of a battle. That experience really just kind of like cemented it there, because he was going to school because he wanted to be on Broadway. He has a BFA in musical theater. This kind of like changed his trajectory a bit. And also growing up, he kind of grew up in a haunted house where there was like a ghost dog and different spirits that seemed to haunt this house. And so it started from a very young age. It took him down this road that led him to where he is today. So the book Goodbye Hello is separated into 3 parts. The first is Death is a Part of Life. The second is differing perspectives on death. And then the third is how the paranormal can help us cope with death and knowing or not knowing what's next. So when he first got into this, he had signed up to be on the show Ghost Hunters Academy. Like, they're having a competition for ghost hunting, and he'd been kind of doing some paranormal investigating with some of his friends around town and whatnot. And so they chose him, and he got to go on the show. First time around, he did not win, and then the second time around, he ended up winning. The prize was, for 6 episodes, he got to be on the show Ghost Hunters, and that's how he met Amy Bruni. When he started getting into this, you know, sometimes you're working around stuff that has to do with death all the time, and how your perspective just continually changes, and how it gives you a view of this. And at one time he was doing a paranormal convention of some sort, or an event. I'm not sure if it was a convention or an event, but some sort of paranormal event. And a lady came up to him, and you know, you expect people like, how do I talk to my dead mother, or how do I talk to my dead sister? But this lady, she said to him, I only have a few weeks left to live, and I want to know how to communicate with people once I've passed. And he was kind of like, well, honestly, I don't know, but if you find out, please come tell me and let me know. It was gonna make me cry. And she looked at him and she was like, of course. So that kind of like, you know, sets the wheels turning and thinking about stuff like this. He shares a lot of his experiences and his experience with people that he's lost. You hear from different friends that have had experiences with this. One of my friends, John E.L. Tenney, is a paranormal investigator. He's been doing this for like a million years. I've known him for a really long time. I want to say like 17 years, maybe longer. He is friends with Adam Berry, and he had what you would call a near-death experience where he died when he was 18. He had a heart attack and he died, and he was dead for, I believe, like 3 minutes. And that whole story is talked about in this book. I had known some of it, but the extent of how it changed, like how John viewed everything, how we're all connected, and how he wanted to live his life, and just the road it took him down. And they talk about in this book, there's near-death experiences of seeing loved ones in your dreams after they've passed. I lost my shit when Adam's dog, Maria Conchita, a little chihuahua, passes away. It's so sad. He talks about the loss of his dog and how our pets are family. That experience, and his husband saw when she had passed on, the dog like jumping around and being all excited, but it was like the spirit that he saw and just the different experiences. And how in the beginning, when he was doing all this investigating, the big thing was like to get a reaction from ghosts and this, that, and the other, and how he didn't in the beginning view them as humans. It was kind of separate, but once he realized, yeah, these ghosts are humans who used to be here and to exist, and him and Amy Bruni, when they came together, started looking at things in such a different direction. Instead of getting a reaction, like, how can we help these spirits? Why are they still here? What is, you know, their purpose of, like, why do some stay behind and why do some move on? And his experience through all this is really fascinating. It's super interesting. It's super heartfelt. Honestly, like, I laughed, I cried, I sobbed about with the part where his dog died. It was so sad. Oh, but this book was freaking fantastic. If you have any interest or questions or just, you know, want a little bit of insight with someone who works in the paranormal and has had all these different experiences with ghosts and death and just a different viewpoint that sheds light on this subject that you may have not thought of before or heard about, Goodbye Hello is absolutely fantastic. I could not recommend this enough. And as I said too, it holds your interest and it's not boring to read at all. That's a big thing too with sometimes you get into nonfiction books like this and it becomes like someone droning on, but you get a lot of like Adam's personality through the book, and he's really charismatic and that comes through in the writing and it's great. Be prepared, you may cry a bit when you read this book because the subject matter is very heavy. It's done so well. If you are a fan of the strange and paranormal and looking for more insight into what happens when we leave this realm, Goodbye Hello by Adam Berry might just be for you. And if you're also interested in paranormal books, the next video coming up will be about another paranormal book, so stick around, check it out. And if you had fun hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.